Welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. I'm Jeffrey Uzama and I'm here with my people, Kayode and Bukola. I've never mentioned your name on air like that. That's a new one, you know. It's a new age.
But I can count a number of times that you have, Jeffrey. Anyway.
I mean like this, no, just come and mention names like that. Yeah.
Okay.
No, go on. Both of them go on.
Whatever.
You know, that's our vibe and how we rhyme this morning. Good morning and welcome. This is the Morning Brief on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka.
Well, Jeffrey is correct. I'm Kayode. Add to that, Okikiolu. And we're live in Lagos for you, Nigeria's commercial capital. This is a city, they say, it never sleeps. We try to sleep sometimes. We hope you did as well. Ready for a brand new day. Welcome to the show.
So, guys, what's been going on? What have you been tracking and watching?
Quite a lot. The president's return and hopes that there will be some communication, particularly, you know, with the hue and cry over the cybercrime levy, you know, cybersecurity levy that the CBN has directed banks to begin to implement. So we're hoping that there will be some word from the presidency, as well as, you know, what Nigerians have been going through over the last few weeks, the petrol scarcity that has begun to ease, by the way, in Lagos. But we don't know what it's like in other parts of the country. What's it like for you? Have you begun to get fuel without stress, without queuing? Particularly in the Southwest, if you recall what our guest said, you know, the Secretary of IPMAN, Ore, that, you know, the priority states would be maybe Lagos, Abuja, Kano. Well, Port Harcourt didn't quite go through this difficulty to get the product, you know, but in other parts of the country, let's know what it's like for you. Have you begun to be able to get your petrol tanks filled with ease? Let us know.
Well, there was a bright spot for me yesterday. I went to a filling station and I saw that petrol was being sold for less than 600 naira. But there's an interesting part. There was no queue.
It has to be an NNPC petrol station.
There was no queue. That's the other point. There was just about 3 cars and I had to ask, how much? I checked. I'm like, really? Are you sure you're selling the full 1 liter? That's on the one hand. And as you said, it raises the questions or the points that I think some of the other practitioners in the industry were raising, that it looks like they're being priced out of business with this if they're not getting directly from NNPCL. And the NNPC retail stores are selling for the below 600 price. Obviously, people will go there and not come to their businesses. But on the flip side, guys, I have some cheering news for you as well. Our ugu is growing. I know.
In your backyard, Abby?
Well, just right in front of the house. There's this flower pot that my wife started and then started planting different things.
Oh,
and
really?
There was this particular ugu that we planted, the seeds, like 3 or 4. And for like a week or more, nothing happened. It looked like it was dead. My director is asking me, did I plant a wedu? You want to come, Abby? Don't worry, I'll plant a wedu for you. But the good part is, after a week, all of a sudden, we just saw this little green thing springing out. And I can't explain the joy that we felt. Don't ask for ugu. But the point is, it's beautiful to see, and there are lots of life lessons to learn from that. But the important part is you have to keep watering that tiny ugu, and it is so much joy that I feel right now, guys. I wish you could feel it, but you know what? That's just me.
That's a good thing.
Congratulations, Kayode.
It's really helping
Is this size big enough for your mental health? Thank you.
It's really good for your mental health. I like that.
I saw that coming. I will take the fall today. Yes, planting is good for your mental health. I can tell you that.
But the beautiful part of it is like what Ayola said the other day. When you have these natural plants around you, not the artificial one. There's an exchange within the ecosystem. You breathe out carbon dioxide, and they give you oxygen. They're taking carbon dioxide. So that exchange helps purify the environment. So it's not just good for your mental health. It's also good for your life in general. So if you can do like Kayode, if you have the space, it's not everybody has a space to plant anything around their environment, but if you do have the space,
you don't need
make
a
sure
space.
You do.
That's the thing. I mean, all you just need is a flower, a little flower pot.
Okay.
Different sizes. You know what? You don't even need to buy a flower pot. You could use a
bucket,
container. Just all you need is sand, soil, and then
as long as your landlord allows you in some places.
No, so it's just like your flower pot in front of your house. I don't think any landlord would disallow that. I think it even beautifies the house. So just put that right in front of your house, water it, get manure. Guess what? You can use fruits waste as manure. You can use eggshells.
You have turned an agriculturist on the show
It's
today.
mostly my wife. I'm just the one that uses English to decide. But anyway, that's just...
No, but it's beautiful to listen to these things, given what is going on in the country, whatever way however you can help yourself to cut costs, to help your mental health, to inspire yourself,
and to ensure that
manage
the
the ecosystem.
is healthy.
Yeah. So it's a multi-layer of a couple of things going on. So kudos to you and your wife.
I'll invite you for... there's actually...
I hope you have things that drive away, I call it creepy crawlies.
Oh, yes, so we found a way to put nets around it.
Okay.
You know, I'll call you guys for the harvest, because there's also corn. Right.
Okay.
And you know, Kade, there's also a way that it beautifies, it enhances the aesthetics of the environment, you know, makes it beautiful. Because I'm planting right now as well, and I'm hoping to be able to report a harvest perhaps in the next 3 months or so. So maybe a little more for my mental health, more than the size of Kade's.
Well, there's a lot to talk about. One of the things, well, since the president came back, I don't think I've seen the president on camera. I don't know what's going on. So maybe the people who communicate what's going on in the presidency can tell us exactly, yes, we're happy he's back, but we haven't seen our president. Where exactly are the pictures and all of that? Those are the questions. But those are not the things we're talking about. Let's tell you, the first thing we'll be looking at today, the directive to banks by her regulator to implement the cybersecurity levy of 0.5%, or is it 0.005, on certain electronic transactions relying on the Cybersecurity Amendment Act is facing resistance by Nigerians who feel overburdened by the policy of this government 1 year in. Today, we'll look at this near-vexed issue causing what we call wahala in the policy.
And that's not all. Those at the vanguard of political leadership in Rivers State continue to lead an onslaught on each other's camps with a scenario that has now earned the situation a status of a theater of the absurd. In 1 year alone, 3 speakers have emerged. An impeachment move against the governor has been initiated, and even a presidential piece triggered a political war song. We'll hear from all sides to understand whether it's a cul-de-sac or just politics.
Oh, yeah. And on the flip side of things, really, there are creatives, right? Not politicians this time around. Creatives that have been pivotal in defining the sounds of an era, and yet they may not pass for easily identifiable faces. And one of them sits on a keyboard or set of keys to create sounds of joy. On the flip side, he uses the keys to open doors of beauty, creativity, and the rest. Perhaps that's why they call him Rotimikeys. Well, he joins us on the morning brief. We're getting up close and personal with him.
Those are the things we'll be looking at today, and even more right here on the morning brief. But don't forget, it's a community show, as we always say, so you can be part of it. So get to your X. What did I say that? If you go to, you can post on X and tell us exactly what you're tracking, what you're following, and all of that. What we do on the show is to amplify it. So go to former Twitter and now X, and of course on our WhatsApp number, send your messages as well as videos as soon as we're verified. And we tell you to send these videos for real, because we really want to play out, play the video on the show, so that as soon as we vet them, we play it on the show. So send it to us on that number right on your screen, and we'll be delighted to have your voice amplified right here on the morning brief. Well, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, it will be time for the top stories. Then we'll get to the conversations for the day. Join us again. Top on the brief this morning is what has been described as a Rivers conundrum of political absurdity following shades of brewing crisis within the political ranks. First, the Rivers State House of Assembly vetoed the governor on a harmonized amendment to the Local Government Administration Act after he declined assent. At the plenary on Wednesday, the lawmakers criticized the governor for saying they are non-existent and are only functional due to his peaceful disposition.
Mr. Speaker, common knowledge says that the existence of human beings is being created by God Almighty. And the existence of the Rivers State House of Assembly is enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, precisely Section 4, subsection 6, 7 So, Mr. Speaker, I wonder why a sitting governor will go this far to make this unguided statement. I want to bring to the notice of this House that such statements are a plot for coup.
We need to consolidate everything into one legislation so that we can have one single document which stands as the Rivers State Local Government Law for 2024. This bill is also making provision for the creation of the Local Government Service Committee for every local government. This Local Government Service Committee, according to this bill, which we have just resolved in the Committee of the Whole, will have that responsibility of recommending to the Local Government Service Commission on a number of matters, including matters affecting staff of their local governments. We must continue to perform this task. We must not be distracted by the antics of our detractors, particularly those who don't read the Constitution. We must continue to do our job, knowing fully well that what we are doing is in the best interest of Rivers State.
Well, in another part of town, the chairman of the local government areas are accusing the governor, Similala Fubara, of withholding council allocation for the month of March and April in the case of Emoha local government, and they're asking for presidential intervention to avoid a breakdown of law and order. At the press conference in Port Harcourt, some of the LGA chairmen have also maintained that they will continue in office after the expiration of their tenure in June on the back of the Amendment Local Government Administration Act harmonized by the State Assembly on Wednesday.
It has come to the notice of our Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, Agon River State Chapter, that the River State government, under the leadership of His Excellency, Sir Siminalayi Fubara GSS ROS, has neglected, failed, and deliberately refused to hold the statutory Joint Account Allocation Committee meeting, JAC, which is a prerequisite for the release and disbursement of funds due to the local governments in the State Joint Local Government Account, and has continued to withhold the statutory allocation due to the 23 local government councils of River State since the month of April 2024, and in the case of Emoha since March 2024 till date for no just cause, thereby starving the third tier of government of the funds required to discharge its statutory functions in the administration of the local government areas. It has also come to our notice that the governor of River State held a meeting with heads of local government administrations, head of personnel management, treasurers of local government, and other directors on Monday, the 6th day of May, 2024 in Government House, Port Harcourt, whereat he directed them to go and compile for presentation to him of the salary vouchers and overheads of civil servants, excluding chairmen, vice chairmen, councillors, and other political office holders.
Well, in response to some of these allegations, one of Governor Fubara's supporters, who is a state chairman of the National Youth Council of Nigeria, Mr. Chijioke Unwo, says the LGA chairman should prepare to leave office after the tenure ends, despite the LG Amendment Act, while criticizing the call for impeachment of the governor.
We want this medium to call on Chief Tonokocha to retract attacking the office of the governor of Rivers State. Henceforth, or the youth of Rivers State will take a protest against him to Abuja. We want also call on Mr. President to call on Chief Tonokocha to order to stop inciting crisis in our state. Rivers State is a very peaceful state. Rivers State is a place where people are doing their normal business. Rivers is a place where we have a governor that loves the people who elected him. Each time Chief Tonokocha comes to incite Nigerians, especially Rivers people, against the governor. So what, as a youth of the state, we want to call on Tonokocha to immediately apologize to the governor of Rivers State. And let us state it, that no one man can impeach the governor because we voted for the governor of Rivers State. And as such, we must continue to protect the governor of Rivers State.
Well, hold your breath. That's not all from Rivers State's political imbroglio, because as we speak, the pro-Fubara lawmakers in the State Assembly have elected a new speaker. Mr. Victor Okojumbo, who represents Bonny State constituency, was said to have been elected on Wednesday at 10 a.m. during plenary, in line with the standing order of the House, as they call it. Recall that a similar scenario played out when former House leader, now current the current chief of staff to the governor, Mr. Edison Ehie, was elected speaker after the 26 members loyal to the FCT minister Nyesom Wike defected to the APC. Following his resignation or his emergence over a house of 4 members, the governor presented the state's appropriation bill of 800 billion naira before them, and it was passed and assented to.
Recall that the former Speaker, Right Honorable Edison Ehie, Esquire, DSSRS, PhD, after successfully pioneering the affairs of the House and also duly recognized as the authentic Speaker by an order of the Rivers State High Court, given under the hand of Justice Danagogo, and on the 12th day of December 2023, tendered his resignation on the 29th December 2023. I want to thank you, distinguished honorable members, for electing me as the new speaker pursuant to the resignation of Right Honorable Edison Ehie, DSSRS, PhD.
It appears with Rivers politics, you can't blink. Let's move on now. It's important to inform you that the House of Representatives have passed a resolution to investigate the escape of the Binance executive, Mr. Najim Anjarwalla, from the custody of the Office of the National Security Advisor. The resolution was reached after considering a motion by Mr. Dominic Okafor. The House is refuting claims by the Binance Group that lawmakers demanded bribe from the company. Let's also tell you that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission will be arraigning former Minister of Aviation Hadi Sirika before Justice Sylvanus Orji of the FCT High Court Abuja later today for alleged abuse of office. Mr. Sirika, who served under the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari, will be arraigned on a 6-count amended charge. He will be arraigned alongside his daughter, Fatima, Jalal Hamma, and Al-Durak Investment Limited for same allegation. According to the charge sheet cited by Channels Television, Mr. Sirika allegedly used his position as the aviation minister to fraudulently, allegedly, award contract to his daughter, son-in-law, and associates. And now to the announcement by the governor of Delta State, Sheriff Oborowere, that the military have completely withdrawn their operations from Okwama community in Delta State. He made the announcement at a press conference at the government house in Asaba, Delta State, perhaps implying that the displaced people of Okwama are now free to return to their homes as the government IDP camp is still functional. The military had taken over the community after 17 army personnel were gruesomely killed on the 14th of March 2024 in the Riverine community in Ugelin South local government area, causing many residents to flee into the creeks and other neighboring communities. Now, the latest levy imposed by the federal government for cybersecurity to be domiciled at the central bank is causing unease in the polity, with the Trade Union Congress threatening to embark on a massive protest that will shut down the Nigerian economy. The TUC maintains they will make their threats and hit the streets if the federal government fails to cancel the controversial cybersecurity levy recently introduced by the Central Bank of Nigeria. In a statement signed by the president or by its president Festus Osifos, it slammed the directive by the CBN to banks imposing a 0.5% cybersecurity levy on electronic transactions except on 16 listed transactions, a move that has gotten the government flags from citizens who are already burdened by other taxes and high inflation, among other issues in the economy. Now, whilst that agitation over cybersecurity levy rages in business, the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms has unveiled a comprehensive proposal to overhaul the Nigeria's value-added tax system. According to the chairman of the committee, the plan includes raising VAT rates on select goods and services to compensate for eliminating numerous consumption taxes levied by different states, allowing businesses to claim input VAT, exemption of VAT on exports, enhanced VAT refund process, among others. The committee, while presenting the recommendation, reiterated the goal is to streamline the tax system, making it easier for businesses to comply, for the government to administer. Away from our shores, a senior U.S. administration official says the U.S. last week had paused the bomb shipment for Israel over concerns it was going ahead with a major group operation in the southern Gaza city of Rafah. The shipment consisted of about almost 1,000 kilograms of bomb. According to the official, Israel has not fully addressed U.S. concerns over humanitarian needs of civilians in Rafah, but an Israeli military official appears to play down the U.S. move as the war against Hamas continues amidst possible talks. Let's now talk sports now. In sports, Nigeria's under-17 girls, the Flamingos, will leave the country later today for Bamako ahead of the FIFA Women's World Cup African qualifying series. The third round against Burkina Faso on Saturday, the Flamingos wrapped up their preparation in Abuja with a 9-1 thrashing of their opponent in a warm-up game. Since the tournament was launched in New Zealand in 2008, Nigeria have only missed one edition in 2018, and the girls are set for a resounding victory in the Malian capital to make the return leg in Abuja on May the 18th a formality. And then Real Madrid earned a 2-1 comeback win over Bayern Munich in their UEFA Champions League semi-final second leg clash at Santiago Bernabeu to set a clash against Borussia Dortmund at the finals. The Spanish La Liga champions had unlikely 34-year-old Spanish striker Joselu, who scored twice in 3 minutes, coming on a substituted minutes before showing nothing short of a heroic performance. The scoreline brings the tie to an aggregate of 4-3 victory for Real Madrid, who advanced to the final of the competition. Well, those are the stories we've been tracking for you in the last, say, 24 hours. And of course, it will shape part of our conversation for the rest of the show and the rest of the day. And I'm being joined right now by Kayode, who brings me some of this, who brings us, not me now, some of the updates on what you've been tracking on X.
Definitely. Major talking points, and it's
Exactly.
not just sports alone. And
Yep.
there's a tendency to focus on sports, because sports essentially was the major talking point last night. But let's talk about what concerns you and I. It's not just sports, right? It's not just the Champions League and the rest. And this concerns your local government and my local government. And that's where we start off from this morning. The tax panel has been proposing allocating 90% of value-added tax, that's VAT, to states and LG. So let's take a look at the first one on this one. It's from Olabisi Law on X. So take a look at what it says on X. Olabisi Law has this to say on this. Says that this will not solve anything under the current system of government we operate in Nigeria. Yes, federal system is on paper, but not the federal system in practice. Despite doing all this, Nigerians will be expecting FG to do everything. We're quick to call out FG on every issue. It can only work where the true federal system of government is in practice. So let's take a look at the next one, guys.
So all of these laws that are being implemented or being put forward by the federal government, well, at the end of the day, it's about much as possible. The Speaker of the House should do the right. Oh, okay. This is not exactly what we're talking about. I should.
But we're talking about the VAT revenue to local governments and states. That's what we're beginning with, actually. And the next one is from Jagaban Olu. Also says that each state should keep the VAT they generate. It cannot be right that states with high levels of corruption, low IGR, low enforcement of taxation, poor leadership since 1990 to 2024 are sharing VAT for more successful states that invested in fixing their state. So that's a conversation around that. But I understand that Nigerians want to hear about the cybersecurity.
Yes. Levy. So maybe we'll get some of the posts you're having on X about cybersecurity. It seems to generate a lot of controversy about how this will be implemented. People are burdened by in their view, the many taxes they have to pay, whether it's subliminal or major, whatever form of taxes. Nigerians are actually burdened. So if we can get some of the first tweets on the cybersecurity issue.
Particularly because the reps have stepped down a motion for suspension of the levy. And you see there from Taiwo J.
It is a matter of an existing law. The best they can do is to call for a human-face implementation of the law or call for a total review or abrogation of the existing law. Wow.
Well, this next user, Nature, says that it's medicine after death. Whatever happened to putting some faith in the lawmaker? Says sometimes I wonder what Nigerians are doing when such law is passed. It shouldn't have ever, or it shouldn't have ever called or passed through. I think that's the word you wanted to say. Passed through the House. Talk less of crying to suspend the implementation. He says there's no justification for such tax.
Well, J Wealth, as you call yourself, but Ayola John Collar says they should look at the 2015 Act, which is actually the original Act. There's no where individuals was mentioned to pay CSL, that's Cybersecurity Law. Schedule of the Act listed the businesses who are to pay. Also, exceptions listed by the CBN need to be included in the Act so to avoid the lacuna. So there's an amendment. There's an original Act in 2015. There's an amendment. Perhaps is that amendment they are relying on to implement all of this.
There you go. But that's not all. Today's a big day, actually, for the EFCC. And former Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika. And the big day is in court, really. Thursday, that is May the 9th, is the day that the EFCC is set to arraign former Aviation Minister Hadi Sirika. And this user doesn't appear to need the courts to make a decision. James Meche believes that, well, he doesn't need to be arraigned, that some of the monies should be refunded, and then, come on. So that's why we need a court, a judicial system.
Exactly.
So that we don't just
throw people in prison.
Exactly.
You
Imagine if you were in a situation, similar situation, and someone were to accuse you, and the law says you're innocent until proven guilty otherwise. So yes, your sentiments are understood, but don't forget that is what the law says. Without the law, we'll just be like animals, barbarians, or whatever that term is.
All right, underscore King Eric underscore says, imagine being arraigned with your daughter for stealing, allegedly we should say, public funds. Not sure there's a bigger embarrassment than that.
Well, moving on. Hebdo says just how it should be. Goes on to say, oh, to be honest, if you mess with national resources, you should be dragged face flat, and status should not matter in this one. So I think it just points to that conversation we've always had about stronger institutions, not stronger individuals. So we'll wait and see how this plays out. Of course, Channels Television, we're live at the court for you, give you bit by bit, stroke by stroke analysis of what goes in there.
And Anu Help says, this is how a lot of individuals acquired wealth in Nigeria. Steal the people's commonwealth, rebrand, rinse, and repeat. Tomorrow, Nigerians will defend him as a legitimate guy who was smart and creative. I dislike his docility and forgetfulness. Remember, it's still an allegation, all right? But we'll move on to the issue of the PDP asking the APC to abolish any thoughts of impeaching the River State governor. You've seen the back and forth, what played out. If you follow the top stories and if you've been following the news, you'll see. So this is from Leo saying that they're obviously wasting their time. You can't fight a sitting governor.
Okay, there's final one, and this one says that the House intending to impeach Governor Fubara is not even legitimate, this user believes, and goes on to say the APC government doesn't call their people to order. They will be able to control the fallout, and we need to reiterate that what we want is peace. And not just...
We need to reiterate that as much as possible, which is going to form part of our conversation for today, because we know how these things can snowball into something else. We don't want this music to change to a war song, because we're seeing the alignment and the grandstanding and the posturing and taking positions across lines that are very faulty when it comes to our national cohesion and unity, and we do not want it to get to that point. So whatever can be done to make these dials off and go off is absolutely important. But those are just the ones who've been tracking on X for you to amplify your voice. We now switch gears to get into our very first conversation for today. Join us again. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the program. And as we kickstart our conversation today, reflect not a little dust has been raised by the CBN's directive to banks to charge 0.5% levy on cybersecurity. And of course, if you look at that space, it's a vibrant one. A lot is happening, positive and negative. And there has in fact been a prediction there will be a surge in cybersecurity threats this year. You speak of possible attacks to government's online assets, employment benefit scams, just to mention a few. So perhaps there is a need, for to tackle cybercrime. But the question on the lips of many is this the time for government to levy a cybersecurity charge on Nigerians? So joining us to have that conversation, we have two gentlemen who join us virtually, starting with Mr. Jude Izinegbe, who is a digital transformation consultant. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Izinegbe, who joins us from our Abuja studio. And we also have joining us Dr. Bilyaminu.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. We also have Dr. Bilyaminu Romo, a senior lecturer, Computer Science, University of East London. Dr. Romo, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So before we dive really deep into this conversation, perhaps the good place to start, which is one of the valid questions I believe asked by our guest yesterday, is it charged anywhere in the world? So help us understand what would be best practice. So is there a cybersecurity levy that is charged on global citizens, to tackle cybercrime? Dr. Romo, I'm starting with you.
Thank you very much. I think this is a very important question to ask. The likes of UK models when it comes to taxations or levies, there is no any charges when it comes to electronic money transactions. Of course, there is 20% VAT on all transactions when it comes to digital product, and also that consists intangible and tangible digital asset. However, in Nigeria, why consider a levy on individual instead of targeting companies' net profit, similar to Nigeria's Police Trust Fund Act? And again, the companies actually, especially those benefiting from large bases, for example, may have greater capacity to contribute financially, addressing the issues like cybersecurity.
So just before I go to our next guest, help us understand, so how does a government situate, what approach really does government adopt to tackling cybercrime, either through fundraising?
The UK government has a national treasury, and the national treasury is the main source of government funding, allocating money to various departments and initiatives, including focus on cybersecurity. So, for example, there is a national cybersecurity program, which is a government initiative with a dedicated budget, address a wide range of cybersecurity priorities. And also, this budget is drawn upon funds initiated, allocated by the treasury. But in this case, as I've mentioned, if the government is actually trying to source for funds to address cybersecurity, I think they actually need to look at different avenues where they should target and actually generate those revenues to address the issue of cybersecurity threat.
Thank you. Let me come to you now, Dr. Izinegbe. Perhaps you may want to react to what Dr. Romo has said, but does that preclude, any government to adopt another approach that is a departure from what is done in other climes?
Thank you very much. In line with what Dr. Romo just said, one thing I know is cybersecurity is not crowd-funded, right? So within our climb here, this is the first time Nigerians are hearing about a cybersecurity levy. It's the first time we're hearing about paying for the protection of transactions. The question begs, prior to this time, how have the banks been securing transactions? Perhaps that has to be reconsidered, because when you come out to say Nigerians should pay for cybersecurity of transactions, it's kind of tell Nigerians to be weary of the banks, because it then means that the banks are not well equipped to protect transactions. You know, so the office of the NSA has to look at this again and probably come up with a better approach to it. Yes, we know there is a 2015 Act for this, and there was a circular that even came out way back 2018, I think. You know, so that has to be looked into again. Because coming at this time to say Nigerians should pay a 0.5% for cybersecurity levy, does it then mean that the banks are now not able to provide effective cybersecurity protection on transactions that are going on? There are many questions that these have erupted, that this has brought to the fore. Is it that the banks are not secure? Is it that the NSA is the organization or the institution that is providing security for banking transactions? What's the duty of NITDA? Because we know that to a large extent, the Nigerian Information Technology Development Agency is tasked with the duty of cybersecurity and information technology administration all over the country. So why is this directive coming from the office of the NSA? Is there something Nigerians need to know? Is there a threat on the infrastructure of Nigerian banks? Is there a threat to our national treasury? What exactly is going on that this kind of levy is coming up at this point in time? Another question that follows this is that the banking transaction levy, operational levy, is about 0.3%. So why is there a cybersecurity levy that is over and above the transactional levy that Nigerians have been paying? Mind you, we have many other payments that Nigerians have been paying, SMS charges, and there are just so many. So at this time is an extra burden on Nigerians, the MSMEs. These are people that are just trying to make a living. So if you come up with multiple charges, it's going to dampen the business climate in the country. That's why there's this agitation. So we know that there are some people that want to go for a protest, but before a protest is done, I think there should be a dialogue for proper understanding between the office of the NSA, the CBN that the circular came from, and perhaps NITDA. And this will help Nigerians to be at peace.
All right, so let's dig deep. Let me go back to our guest on this particular issue. One of the concerns Nigerians are raising is, just like it's been said, is the issue of multiple taxation. That's the way Nigerians see it. I don't know how it is managed in other climes, because when we look at the Nigerian budget, one of the major chunk of our budget goes to defense. And I know that the NSA is all part of the defense infrastructure. I'm sure the NSA as well has some budget to itself. I can't quote the exact figure now. Why do they now need this, quote unquote, as he said, some sort of crowdfunding through levy? Doctor, it's for you. Dr. Romo, that's for you.
Thank you. I think what we need to actually also look at and consider here is that foreign digital companies operating in Nigeria have paid over 1.3 trillion naira in taxes. Is that not sufficient enough to address the cybersecurity threat? And the government should provide cybersecurity risk data to researchers to inform legislation and also understand if there is any significant cyber threat level currently facing the country. There hasn't been any headlines or any news that actually suggest or indicate there is a cyber threat in Nigeria since during the election, when the former minister actually comes out publicly and mentioned that there is a cyber security threat, and now imposing this levy on individuals where certain population doesn't even have access to 3G or even electricity, whereas companies are paying taxes, and this is just a corporation tax, 1.2 trillion naira. This would actually have a potential negative impact on levies, because that would hinder Nigerian climate change vision and commitment by incentivizing cash transaction. And again, when it comes, if you look at also the digital poverty and financial exclusion gap, this also may be widened significantly, particularly for the unbanked population. And of course, in some other countries, for example, here in the UK, the UK government actually provide incentive for contractors payment to promote financial inclusion and efficiency. And the overall goal is that it's important to balance revenue generation with a fostering digitally inclusive and secure Nigeria. So if you also, likewise, if you compare the Nigerian mobile market, there is over 122.5 million internet users, according to data report as of January 2003. And there is mobile connection exceeding 100% of population, suggesting multiple subscriptions per person, whereas compared to UK, over 83 million mobile connection, according to Uswitch. If you look at the taxes paid by these digital companies, which is over 44 million pounds, compared to the population of mobile users in Nigeria, why the government could not impose that levy on digital companies' net profits? I think this is something that needs to actually, the legislations need to actually ensure that a proper operations when it comes to spending public money are actually being appropriated judiciously.
Let me go to Mr. Zinegwe on this particular one. For those in the know, they've been doing their calculations, and they are estimating that about 3 trillion naira is going to be accruing to that particular purse, as far as this 0.05 or 0.5, whatever percentage it is, if it's undertaken annually. And I think about 40% is to be sent to the NSS office. But we know that this is an issue of security, so all of the details of how expenditure goes may not be reeled out to the public. How can we manage transparency and avoid misappropriation if eventually it is implemented? Because it's key at the end of the day. It's our public money. Mr. Zinegbe, it's for you.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much, Geoffrey. One thing about security votes and expenditure when it comes to security, it's a bit challenging because sometimes you don't want to make that public. And that's why we're a bit concerned, because cybersecurity activities are not what you make public. And that's where, personally, I felt a bit uneasy when we see this kind of circular, because when these monies are now being remitted, you will not expect the government to come tell Nigerians publicly how these funds are being disbursed, what they are to be used for, because we will now be exposing our national security to the public. That's why I feel the best approach would have been an internal kind of communication where it's not pushed down, the levy is not pushed down to Nigerians. Okay, let's just take a simple transaction, for instance. Before you even get to the bank, if you're making an online transaction, it runs through the telcos. So how do the telcos secure their networks? Are we going to expect a telecom cybersecurity levy in the near future? Because it passes through the telcos before it gets to the bank, right? So if we now start asking for the breakdown of the disbursement of funds, most likely we're not going to get anything. Nigerians are not going to get information on the disbursement of the cybersecurity funds when that happens. So it runs into trillions of naira, but you and I know that nobody's going to get information on that. That is the more reason why this shouldn't have even come up in the first place. The communication should have been more internal from the other levies, other payments, other taxes that have been going on. Perhaps a percentage from there should have been voted for this purpose. Because on one hand, over the years, we'll be talking about cashless policy. On the other hand, we are bringing about a levy, a taxation, a payment that is now going to discourage cashless policy. already on the streets of Nigeria, people are saying they're going to keep their funds from the bank. People are not going to do any form of transfer. So the MSMEs that do daily transactions, transfer from here to there, sales that are going on, even up to the large enterprises, everybody is going to feel this heat. So there has to be a review because, like you asked me just now, asking for a breakdown on the transaction or the disbursement of these funds, nobody is going to get it. You and I know that for real.
You know, it's a very interesting conversation, really, and it begs a lot of questions, and we're trying to put as much as we can through, particularly to help government shape their policies. Fine, this went through the National Assembly, you know, a certain senator presented it, and it went through first to third reading in 2 months. It was passed eventually, and the president appended his signature. So it is law at this point, but that doesn't preclude the fact that laws can be amended, particularly because laws are made for people and not people for the laws. So let me come to Dr. Romo, because I was looking through the U.S. and I saw that President Joe Biden is planning to budget, what, $13 billion investment in cybersecurity. That's for the coming year. And it speaks to how countries are approaching cybersecurity these days, because we know how big it is now. We're literally building our societies on the web, you know, on the web of things, on, you know, digital platforms, on the cloud. AI is playing a major role. So that's really the present and the future. So there needs to be funding. And you've talked about how you think the government can fund. But if we want to also perhaps compete on the global scale to a certain level, we'll need a lot more funding. I think all of you have alluded to the fact that there are cybersecurity threats, but the question is how to raise the funds. So if we want to compete adequately, where else must we get the funds from? I need you to reiterate that.
Thank you very much. I think this is also a very important thing to consider, because for example, here in the UK government have a funding for cybersecurity research. And some of the key funding sources include the National Cybersecurity Program and the UK Research and Innovations, notably the Engineering and Physical Sciences Research Councils, that funds universities, businesses to actually ensure practical solutions are being developed and also ensure that they are put in place to support businesses when it comes to carrying out their businesses digitally. However, in Nigeria, we do have cybersecurity framework. We also have institutions that actually budgeted, that actually include all these aspects in their budget. But one key question also to actually ask is that why do we have cybersecurity framework, but that actually lacks practical solutions to be actually put in place through research grant, collaboration, partnership with academia, industry, and public sector to ensure that at least the government have a robust framework when it comes to cybersecurity risk assessment and sharing framework when it comes to gathering data to enable researchers actually make an informed research to benefit key decision makers as well as legislations. There is lack of practical solution actually to support, especially when it comes to compliance, because even with the cybersecurity framework that is in place, again, there is no any practical solution. For example, there is no any software being provided, for example, to small businesses, indigenous software product or solution to support businesses to ensure that the government is actually doing something with all these taxes, with all this budget that they have put in place, with the idea of actually addressing the issue of cybersecurity. So there is huge gap to actually consider. And I think funding method when it comes to issuing research grants to universities, academic centers of excellence, innovation centers, to focus on core technologies, which include human factors, critical infrastructure protections, when it comes to even importation of hardwares that we use in our telecoms industry, not just not just in telecom industry, that includes also the software that we use, especially in the public sector, to ensure that we have practical solutions that ensure those software and hardware or equipment are actually being checked for compliance. Because if we don't address this root cause, especially by having this funding research to ensure that there is a proper way of actually implementing those, then we will still go back to the same situation,
right,
regardless of how many millions or trillions of nairas you can generate through levies.
right. Let me go to Mr. Ezenegbe now. He's raised a vital point around research, whether we're really owning this thing beyond just, you know, the levies and all. But I want to backtrack a bit because the law, it's important to talk about this law. It's said to have emanated from the amendment of the Cybercrimes Prohibition and Prevention Act 2015. So this particular, the amendment bill was presented on the floor of the Senate by Senator Buba Umar Shehu Wednesday, 18th of October 2023. That's Mr. Ezenegbe. The first reading, that's when we saw the first reading of that particular amendment. And 2 months after, it had got to the third reading and it was passed. So there are people who are a bit suspicious about how this bill went, the amendment, how it went in the first place. So I just want to put it out there, particularly to the digital community in Nigeria. Did we get any word on this bill? Were we invited at any point? Because eventually it was taken to the ICT and National Security and Intelligence Committee. So was there any word or chatter that you heard about this amendment?
Well, to a large extent, we didn't hear word of this. We didn't get wind of this until it was passed into law, and we saw it first on the 5th of May, 6th of May, I think. That was the first time it became public. And for reasons best known to the National Assembly, this was kept within the confines of the National Assembly and the NSA's office. But now that it has become public, like you said earlier, even laws can be recalled. If a law does not serve the purpose of the benefit of Nigerians or the citizens of a country, that law can be recalled. Laws can also be reviewed, not completely being recalled and abandoned, but reviewed, because it has to improve the economy. It has to improve the lives of the people. If a law does not improve the lives of the people, then of what essence is the law? You know, so coming back to what Dr. Robo said in raising funds for this purpose, how do we get funds for cybersecurity? I would say it has to be done at an enterprise level. You know, there has to be a form of business intelligence in raising funds like this. It can still be raised without being shown publicly or without being put in front of Nigerians that a 0.5% is being collected. You know, out of the various taxes and the various levies that Nigerians are paying, a portion has to be somehow voted for this purpose. Right, so that law, as it were, though it has been passed, has to be reviewed, because anything that does not serve the purpose of the citizenry would not benefit the country at large.
While we wait for a review, perhaps we should take a second look at funding. And as we do that, we can look at the work of the EFCC, which also has, as part of its core mandate, tackling cybercrime. In February, it reported arresting about 30 people for cyber-related criminal activity. In 2022, the EFCC reported that it convicted 2,800 persons for cyber crimes. And in the 2024 budget, the EFCC's proposed budget submitted to the National Assembly is about 76 billion naira. And the police, the Nigeria police, is also, you know, having some activity in that regard with tackling cyberbullying. So it would seem that, not seem now, there is some funding allocated to the security agencies for tackling cybercrime. Perhaps we should understand the intention of the Office of the NSA, which, according to the memo released by the CBN, is granted this responsibility of administering the funds that the banks have been directed to collect. So are we seeing a shift in responsibility, you know, of this approach to tackling cybercrime, moving from the EFCC and the Nigeria Police Force to the NSA? Should we be exploring that point as well?
Yes, right. So the office of the NSA is more like the apex office when it comes to cybersecurity governance, risk management, and compliance. They advise all MDAs. They advise the presidency when it comes to cybersecurity, right? So as we have that of the EFCC, the police force, and every other MDAs doing their bit, the NSA has the holistic approach to cybersecurity advisory. However, coming to the banking sector, because the NSA doesn't just oversee the operations of the banks. This is the first time we're even hearing it. The NSA oversees security operations all around the country. Anything that has to do with security, not just cybersecurity. So wherever funds have been allotted before, allocated for the NSA to carry out their operations, even when it comes to on-ground security, they should look into that post. There is a security fund. There's a security vote that state governments pay. There are some other funding that comes into the NSA's post. So why can't we look into exploring all of those? I would carefully say that recovery of loot in the past, if we even want to ask questions, what have been done with those recoveries? We should start asking the right questions right now. The loot that we have been getting back in the past, what have been happening to those loot, those monies that we'll be recovering? What have been going on with those funds? Can a percentage be allotted for this cybersecurity issue? If we cannot explore that opportunity, can we look into other opportunities? I said a few minutes ago that this has to be done at an enterprise level. At an enterprise level, the big players in the economy can write off, I mean, how much is it? We can write off these funds and not push the burden down to the MSMEs.
Well, an important point to make there, either it's a collection of the funds or a review of the law in the first place. We hope that we've been able to explore the points as much as possible. But the conversation is ongoing, and of course, we'll return to it subsequently. At this point, we'd like to thank you very much, sirs. Mr. Jude Izinegbe, a digital transformation consultant. Izinegbe.
Ozinegbe.
Ozinegbe. Thank you for the correction. And thank you for your time on the program. We also had Dr. Bilyaminu Romo, who joined us via Zoom, a senior lecturer and computer science, University of East London. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And from cybersecurity, we switch gears to take a look at Rivers politics. That will be after this time out, and it promises to be another stimulating conversation. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Let's now switch gears. So the Rivers political imbroglio, as we usually call it, a lot has happened in the last 1 year. If you look at the politics of Rivers State from May the 29th, when Governor Siminalayi Fubara was sworn in, what has been capturing the headlines are crisis upon crisis upon crisis. It's been attempted impeachment. We've had like 3 speakers now at different turns, and all kinds of grandstanding and argument as to who is right and who is wrong, and what should be done and what should not be done. Even a presidential intervention could not resolve the issue. In fact, some people say it even triggered more trouble. That's why we're exploring the issue. The latest happening is the fact that the House of Assembly had just vetoed the governor on an amended, unified amendment bill that has to do with local government administration, besides other veto. Also, the local government chairmen have come to accuse the governor of withholding the allocation for March, I think, and April for Emoha local government area. And whilst we're trying to grapple with that, a new speaker in the person of Okojumbo emerged. So let's make sense of what is going on in Rivers State. We're being joined in the program by the chairman, APC Caretaker Committee in River State, Mr. Antonio Kocha, joins us via Zoom. Mr. Kocha, thank you for coming on the program.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
And we also have Dr. Name Ewo, is the Vice Chairman, Rivers West Senatorial Zone, PDP, and former member of the River State House of Assembly. And he will be joining us later. Mr. Kocha, since we have you, let's begin with what you said, that some people have said it kind of triggers a war song. With what played out in the House of Assembly when the governor was vetoed, as we know, and the governor made a statement that they don't exist, that it is this position that allows them to exist. Your response was that they should initiate an impeachment against the governor. Why did you go that route?
Okay, thank you so much. Nigerians and Rivers people are continuing to read and see the enactment of comedy of the absurd in River State, with the governor of River State as the chief thespian. And it is so absurd that in the circumstance, we do not feel sure that a man who was given responsibility to govern River State, who ought to be a signature of excellence and a paragon of consistency, is the one dancing naked on the streets of River State and Nigeria. Now, a governor wakes up and rewrites the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria by saying to Rivers people and by saying to Nigeria that a legislative arm does not exist. He had negated the principle of the separation of powers and checks and balances as enunciated by Baron de Montesquieu. And we need to see, because yeah, there could be good new knowledge, but new knowledge you have to follow what they call the thesis, antithesis, and then the synthesis. We need to see how he came by that. Of course, this is the same governor who we have on record his communications and correspondences with the River State House of Assembly at his will. In fact, it's even here with me, the documents are here with me, when the governor wrote to the State House of Assembly telling them that he was refusing assent to the laws, in fact, right, to the bills they made. Okay? And that is to allay the fears and remove the doubts from every mind who thought that the State House of Assembly goes ahead to veto the governor without any form of communication. And I have the pages, I have the letters here with me, just 6 of them here with me. Well, if you look at the national dailies today, you see leadership, your Guardian and the Nation newspapers, you will see 3 full pages of our position on the matter. The governor is no longer fit for the exalted office of the governor of River State, and he should go. I have given that instruction, I have given that directive to my members who are in the House of Assembly, and it is not only giving the instruction, it is backed by force, because any law that has no force backing it is deemed to be an advice. I have said to them that if they refuse to carry out the directive of the party, that we will invoke the relevant sections of the constitution of our party and deal decisively with them.
So what time frame are you giving them to impeach the governor?
They have 3 weeks. They have 21 days to do so.
Right.
Because we cannot continue to wallow in this confusion. A governor wakes up in the morning and tells you, okay, let me give you this scenario here. The National Assembly House of Reps Committee on Public Complaints visited with him on a Saturday. And in that meeting, the governor boasted that there were no political crisis in River State. And people were jubilating, also maybe there's something else he's doing to be able to quell his self-inflicted quagmire in political quagmire in River State. Only for him, the next other day, the revered and venerated first Minister and Leader of River State, His Majesty the Speed, visited with him. And the governor began to spew all manner of things and declaring the assembly illegal, in fact, that not existent. In other words, that the assembly exists only at his whims and caprices.
Right.
I haven't seen that before.
The point I'm trying to make,
that the assembly is not a creation of a governor.
Right. The point I'm trying to make now is it your call to make as the caretaker chairman of the APC in River State, or the call of the people that the lawmakers represent? Is that what they really want? That's on the one hand. Some say, is it even either of their calls? How about the former governor, whom a lot of people have also put in the mix, saying they are loyal to him, if that's his call to make? Add to that what some are perceiving will be the bloody aftermath of such if this goes through and there's a standoff. We know how politics can be when two major institutions are at loggerheads, what it will mean for security in the state. Are you considering all of that?
Yeah, well, my response to that is that impeachment is constitutional and legal. It is not a coup d'etat. There are processes and proceedings that follow. Okay, so when anybody begins to think of what the aftermath, bloody or not bloody, in the matter, then the person is the one stoking fire. The person is the one that is beginning to invite anarchy. Impeachment is constitutional. It has happened in a plethora of cases in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. So what is there in an impeachment? We didn't say wake up in the morning and impeach the governor. We said commence impeachment processes and proceedings against the governor, because I have said to you, and I repeat again, that he is not due. I mean, he is not qualified by his actions and his inactions to continue to occupy that the exalted office of River State. We're talking about River State here. River State has been turned to a pariah state because of clueless leadership in the state. And we cannot sit down as a political party and watch River State drift into abysmal oblivion. That is our case. We will not sit down here as a political party to see the governor deride assembly members who are members of our political party, and anyone will expect us to be quiet. We will not sit down here to see the governor.
The APC is not the only political party expressing that concern. The PDP is also expressing. The PDP is also expressing concern in that regard, albeit on the contrary side. But I'd like to quickly follow up. You said should the assembly members fail to initiate impeachment proceedings, that your party will invoke the relevant laws from your constitution to deal with them. Might I ask, does your party have the powers to do that, considering that the River State House of Assembly also consists of lawmakers from the PDP as well?
Well, I'm sure you know very well that every political party or every organization has her do's and don'ts as enshrined in what they call constitution or whatever paper. Now, in the party situation, there's what they call party discipline. Every member, every person who acquiesces to a political party agrees to acquiesce also to the do's and don'ts, the norms, the ethos, and the ethics of the party. And so it is clear that when a directive is given by the party hierarchy at any level, it is to be obeyed by those who the directives are given to. And so that's why I feel sure that the House of Assembly members who are members of my political party cannot berate the directive that we have given. They cannot berate it, else they will face the law. They will face the law. As when I say the law of the party, the constitution of the political party. And let me say, when you say APC is not the only political party in Rivers State, granted, yeah. How do you register political parties? But we are saying to you that APC is the main opposition political party in River State. And of course, by that very fact, becomes the voice of the voiceless in River State. And I said to you that a governor that lies and that misleads his people, this is a state that was envious, that every person in this country wants to be part of, is now a laughing stock. A governor that comes out on national television to say that the state that he governs, the state that we gave him mandates, but though now in error, has no leaders, neither do they have elders, that can call the feuding parties and resolve the issue. A governor that will say that a document that he assented when the presidency intervened in the crisis, the political crisis in Rivers State, that he turns around, after signing to the document, turns around now to say that meeting was, that the churnout of the 8th proclamation document were not constitutional, but for him, according to him, political. Yet he assented to it. He had opportunity to speak in that meeting. He never said so. We don't understand what's going on. A governor whose achievements for 365 days will only be every week they will visit with 2 local government areas in what they call Thanksgiving for Supreme Court judgment.
All right, Mr. Akocha, if I'm a button, I'm going to come back to you at some point on some of the issues you raised about the legality or otherwise, because even the status of the House members is even in contention. It's a subject of litigation and all of that, and some of your calls and the borderlines of your call. But we're being joined on the program by Dr. Nnamewo, who is the Vice Chairman, Rivers Western Terror Zone of the PDP. Doctor, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
I suppose you've been listening to some of the things that Mr. Akocha has said, and one of his strong points is that he has told, those are his words, whether or not he has the authority is a different kettle of fish, as my colleague has asked, told his members of the House to start impeachment process. If they don't do it in 3 weeks, he will implement a relevant section of their law or their article in their constitution to maybe for punitive measure. I wanted you to react to that first off.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. The situation in Rivers State is pathetic, very, very, very pathetic. You see, Nigeria is a sovereign nation. We have a constitution which is the grand norm. Every other law in Nigeria is dependent on the constitution. Our existence as a nation is dependent on the constitution. The constitution guarantees the existence of the executive arm of government, the legislative arm of government, and the judiciary arm of government. And if the constitution in section 109, sub G says, if you are a member of a House of Assembly elected on the platform of a different party, and before the end of that particular tenure, you have moved to another party, that from that day on you cease to be a member of that particular house. Let us learn to respect our laws. Let us learn to respect our constitution. The constitution says you cease to exist the day you move. You cannot place something on nothing. From the day the 27 members move from PDP to APC, automatically they cease to be members of the Rivers State House of Assembly by the provisions of our constitution, not by the provision of our governor, not by provision of any person, but by the provisions of the constitution we gave ourselves. Going forward, it is required that the speaker declare their seat vacant. In this instant case, Edison Ehi Ogrenyede, who was the speaker, declared their seat vacant. In the eye of the law, they have ceased from that particular day to be members of the Rivers State House Assembly. Then when we look at the political angle of the matter, for the interest of Rivers people, Governor Fubara went and entered a peace pact, which was supervised or spearheaded by the President of the Federal Republic. Yes, it's correct. It's within the rights to do so. But let us pari passu look at the issues, the 8-point agenda. The only request Fubara made in that particular negotiation was that let nobody be victimized on account of this particular crisis. But everybody left Abuja and back to Port Harcourt. Fubara commenced implementation of the 8-point agenda. He returned the commissioners, did few other things to that effect. But these people did not go to court to withdraw any of their matters. These people are still victimizing the supporters of Governor Fubara. The chief of staff was declared wanted after the 8-point agenda is passed. There are people, foreign supporters, that have been in detention in Abuja from that particular time till now, not less than 8 of them, being incarcerated. Then wherein lies the justice? This is a matter between two parties. If one party is shifting ground, you also have to shift ground. As to the question of Tony ordering the legislatures to commence the impeachment of Governor Fubara is neither here nor there.
Right.
The acting chairman of APC doesn't have such power to give such order. First. Second, the assembly that is not existent cannot commence impeachment proceedings. You must exist. You must be constitutionally guaranteed before you commence impeachment proceedings. Besides that, impeachment proceeding is not on the surface. We have impeachable offenses. The governor must commit impeachable offenses before an impeachment can be commenced. Let me remind Tony, for you to commence impeachment offense against the governor, there must be a notice of impeachment outlining the offenses of the governor. Outlining the offenses. The House, it must be presented before the House must debate it. It's a whole lot of process that goes to the judiciary.
Yeah, let me come in here.
They are not on the surface.
Right.
Yeah.
Pardon me. I just want to quickly come in because you mentioned the peace pact. It looks like from what we're seeing so far, that peace pact is not holding. And I'll just mention some of the points on that peace pact. The point 3 says the leadership of the Rivers State House of Assembly, as led by Right Honorable Martin Amewule, shall be recognized alongside 27 members who resigned from the PDP. With what we saw yesterday with the emergence of another speaker, obviously that has fallen through. Let's go to point 6. It says that, or let's go to, let's go to 6. It says that the governor of Rivers State shall represent the state budget to a properly constituted Rivers State House of Assembly. Well, you can give us an update on that as well. And 8, there shall not be a caretaker committee for local governments in Rivers State. The dissolution of a local government administration is null and void and shall not be recognized. So for the Martin Amewule House, it looks like that's not holding as well as those other ones, particularly with the emergence of the speaker we saw yesterday.
Well, the peace pact was succeeding, but as we speak now, I don't think the peace pact is actually going to succeed.
So basically, this is in the face of the president.
Immediately after the peace pact, the state government, the governor recognized the Martin Amewule-led house, and that was the reason why he represented the commissioners that resigned to them, and the governor accepted them back. He has sworn them in. As to the question of caretaker dissolution, the local government tenure in Rivers State runs for 3 years. Their tenure will expire on the 16th of July. They shouldn't preempt the governor. As to the question of conducting an election, it is within the convenience of RISEC. It's not about the governor. They should urge RISEC to bring out a timetable to conduct a local government election. The RISEC has the power, just like INEC at the national level, to conduct local government election. As we speak, there is no caretaker in place. The local government tenure is still running. So why are they complaining? As to the question of representing the budget, I don't think a budget of a state can be represented twice. Edison Hill was the proper speaker then, and the budget was represented before him. We don't think it's proper to represent that same budget again. I don't think it's proper.
Well, that's an interesting way to look at it, but then again, the lawmakers are complaining about how MOA local government is being owed their March allocation, or is it salaries now, as the case may be. But let's leave that aspect of the conversation and go to another one that seems to be a sticking point in all of this. I'm coming to you now, Mr. Okocha, which is what is perceived to be the role of the FCT minister, who is also one of the men, in this feud with his political godson and successor. It is perceived that he is the one setting the state assembly members against the governor. That's on the one hand. And apart from that, grapevine sources say that the administration is indulging him because of what is seen as the Rivers template, wherein the APC won that election, which is being frowned at by many, and that perhaps he will replicate that in 2027 for the administration in Abuja to avoid the embarrassment of the federal, of the leading government losing the election in Abuja in 2027. What are your thoughts on this, Mr. Okocha? Mr. Okocha, did you get the question?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, the question is for you.
Yes, I got the question, and I'd like to say to you, well, I don't know whether I could contradict what my friend Ewa just said, but I'm happy that at least he noted that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria recognizes 3 organs of government. And I don't know whether what the governor said the other day, that the River State House of Assembly is not existent, is consistent with that section of the law that we have in this country. He said also, you know, we have all begun to turn to pocket lawyers, and we begin to interpret and make all kinds of judgments, even on matters that are in court. Now they are talking about the legislative arm or the assembly members no longer legitimate. Now they have a plethora of court matters which they instigated, and the matters are ongoing. We've had orders and counter orders. We have had a subsisting judgment of the Federal High Court, which has not been vacated. And in that judgment, it was clear that the Speaker is the Right Honorable Martin Sabebune is the Speaker of the River State House of Assembly. That judgment is still fresh. Nobody has vacated it. And that's why we say that what they are doing right now in the state is a comedy of the absurd. It's a comedy of the absurd. And I feel so terrible that the governor of the state is at the epicenter of these absurdities. Okay? Now, when you talk about, you ask of the role of the Honorable Minister of Transportation, Honorable Minister of Federal Capital Territory. These things are speculatory. Now, the young man, the minister is busy in Abuja. I don't know whether, I'm sure you stay in Abuja and you have seen the transformations that are ongoing. You have seen that the man has said to Nigerians that he has even lost count of the projects he's going to commission to mark his 1 year in office. So at what point is anybody? Now, let them say to us, the same man that the governor says, my organ, let him tell Rivers people what had gone wrong. The only thing I know that would have gone wrong is that when you strike an agreement, you are duty bound to follow that agreement sacrosanctly. Now, when you deviate from that, it means, of course, that you are also not to be trusted. So if you feel sure that there is something else, let him come to Rivers, let him come before Rivers people and tell Rivers people what the problem is. When you say, oh, it is the former governor of Rivers that is stoking fire and all that, he is not a member of the Rivers State House of Assembly. He is not part of those who the governor had declared non-existent. He is not part of those who the governor has said, maybe by extension, he is part of those who the governor has said are no longer, are not elders and leaders of the state. Maybe he's also part of those where the governor said that the presidency intervention was a political solution. No, my friend talked about, now look at, if you look at index 2, clearly the president said, go and remove every other proceeding targeted at the impeachment of the governor. And the assembly the next day came back to Port Harcourt and convened an extraordinary session where that decision was reached on the floor of the House. Channels, you were there, you covered the proceeding, you covered the assembly session. So, in fact, the assembly led the way to what the president said. Well, they talk about, so is that constitutional or that is also political? That's the point what Nigerians want to know. Now, when the president said, go and present a budget to an assembly that is legitimate, is that political? Can a governor run a state without a budget and begin to spend money due Rivers people, taxpayers' money, without a budget? The governor, as we speak, has no DG of a Bureau of Procurement.
Mr. Okocha, if I may butt in,
is that transparency?
Mr. Okocha, if I may butt in, let's go way back. You've exonerated the FCT minister, but he has said a couple of times that he bought form for literally all of them. He has not denied that. And so somebody who has that level of... Hold on, Mr. Okocha.
No, they may have...
Just hold on, Mr. Okocha.
It has no business with the governor declaring Rivers State House of Assembly non-existent.
No,
they may have their own problem.
Mr. Okocha, can you just hold on? Just hold on. I'm going somewhere with this. And this question is to both of you as we close. At the end of the day, if we go back, one of the first major moves we saw that triggered this crisis to this point is that impeachment move. Do you, Mr. Okocha, who is seated there, and Mr. Ewo, do you really know what the issue between the FCT minister and the governor is? Can you say you know what is going on between both of them that triggered all of this crisis? Mr. Okocha, Mr. Ewo, let me come to you. Everybody has just about one minute, please, sir.
Okay, I wouldn't know because I'm not omniscient. They have said nothing. The point the minister made at some point was that the governor was dismantling his structure, his political structure. Of course, the governor...
Hold on, Mr. Okocha. Hold on, Mr. Okocha, hold on. Mr. Ewo should go first. My apologies, please.
Before the signing of the peace pact at Abuja, there were issues. Let me lay a few of the issues for the purpose of Nigerians and Rivers people that are watching us. One, third term is not guaranteed in Nigerian constitution. A third term is not guaranteed in Nigerian constitution, either by proxy or by direct means. The former governor, present FCT minister, want to govern Rivers State by proxy as a third-time governor. When it became obvious that he will not succeed, he ordered the assembly to commence impeachment proceeding. It was this impeachment proceeding that led to the Abuja Pact. But the clear issue is that let Nigerians know, let Rivers people know that there is no provision in our constitution and that the former governor, the current FCT minister, cannot govern Rivers State under that manner. This, I think, is the main issue. Let him give up on Rivers people. Rivers people need SIM. Rivers people need good governance. Rivers people need a working assembly, a working judiciary, a working executive to be able for the governor to be able to deliver on the dividends from democracy. Please, I'm calling on him to give up on Rivers State. Let him concentrate in Abuja. It's no longer feasible at this moment for him to govern Rivers State by proxy.
All right, Mr. Okocha, it's now your turn, sir. 1 minute, please.
Much. My friend is just being speculative, and I don't understand what that means. Now, let him come with facts. When he comes with facts, Nigerians will be able to diagnose and dissect and be able to say to him whether he is right or wrong. To say that the governor, former governor, wanted a third term. What third term is that? The issue the man raised at the heat of it, I mean, at the issue, was the fact that the governor is reneging from the agreements reached. I wasn't there. I don't know the agreement. And the governor had not said that he does not renege. He has said, look, the governor, part of it that he said overtly was the fact that the governor was dismantling his political structure. The governor is a product of that political structure. In fact, if you ask me, okay, by all standards, because I have been in this system for a long time, I could categorize him as a beneficiary of undeserved goodwill because he had never been there with us in all the battles. Okay, but for whatever it is worth, providence, okay, what Christians will call a miracle or something, or good luck, became his lot. Now, the issue is that, like I've said before, that please let us take away the honorable minister from this whole imbroglio, because
made that point
they may have their views.
I think you've made that point time and again, but you know how political watchers and those who are in the know, they're also privy to some of these, issues, particularly even before it blew up in the face of everyone. But on a final note, let me just ask Dr. Ewo, because a lot of Nigerians who are still holding on to that peace pact, thinking that it is a working document. So this peace pact, which is replicated here, should they still hold on to it? Is this still a working document, particularly for Governor Fubara, or they should just fold it and maybe put it in the trash and know that it's no more a working document? Dr. Ewo, we're winding down on that one.
Well, if we have a document and both parties are not shifting ground, I don't think it can it can any longer hold.
Okay.
All right,
So it's not my working document. Let's just keep it aside.
I must thank both of you. Mr. Tony Okocha, Chairman APC Caretaker Committee in Rivers State, joining us from Port Harcourt, as well as Dr. Name Ewo, Vice Chairman, Rivers West Interior Zone PDP, and former member of the Rivers State House of Assembly. Gentlemen, thank you, and we hope there will be peace someday in Rivers State, so that all of this will be talking about governance and not all of this crisis. Thank you for your coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, away from Rivers politics, we'll switch gears now to the softer side of things. Rotimikeys is joining us next to tell us how we manipulate all of that to create those beautiful sounds. Join us again.
Full disclosure, we were dancing. In fact, we just sat down right now. I mean, you can't just stay on your seat while that kind of jam is playing. And I learned to dance, by the way, which I'll be showing you very soon. You know, now me get this. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we have joining us Rotimikeys, real name, if you want to sign a check for him. Rotimi Akifewa, music producer, singer, songwriter, creative director, musician, fashionista, dancer now.
Wow.
You know, I could go on and on.
Okay, I should add that to my resume.
Rotimikeys, welcome to the morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Beautiful song. That's like the tune for the year.
Yes,
and I know even because we are coming from politics today, even politicians say, "Now me get this here, now my turn,"
Yeah,
you know.
actually.
But tell us the inspiration, because we're in May already, and I've heard a lot of people say, you know, that song has been a defining one for me this year. So that's the kind of things we want to put out there. It's not just messages of despair, messages of fear, and the rest. So just quickly, talk to us about how far that music has gone, the thinking behind it, and just what you were trying to achieve.
Okay, well, personally, I just wanted to put out good music. I just wanted to share with the world what, you know, God gave me. You know, so when it came, fact, between the time that I wrote the song, well, and the time it came out, it was 2 weeks. That's probably the shortest production I've had in my entire life.
2 weeks?
2 weeks. It was 2 weeks. Exactly. So the morning I woke up with it and I started hearing the song in my head. It was that kind of song that I had to pick up my phone. Started recording on my phone, and immediately I was done. I just called the boys, show, studio, now we need to start today. Because I knew, you know when it's time for something, even though it's just thrown on your lap, you know, all of a sudden, but you know this is the time for it, you know. So I didn't think I was going to go this big, I mean, but it is what it is.
That is a tune, literally.
It is what it is.
But we need to know Rotimikeys. We've heard your music, a lot of us vibe to it. But who's Rotimi Akifewa? Who are you if you were to describe yourself to, to the world again and again and again? What would be the consistent thing you would always say about you?
Okay, so music has always been a very integral part of my life from my childhood. Like, I remember that growing up, my father used to play, you know, turntables in the house. Yeah, we grew up in the era of turntables, you know, so, and as a child, I used to be fascinated more about how the music was put together than the music itself.
Okay.
So most people will listen to music and they will dance, but I will be in one corner wondering, how did the drums come on top of this thing? How did that keyboard, all those things, how did it come together? So that had always been a driving force, you know, for me. And from my childhood, that's what has always driven my music conviction, you know, all through school, all through primary school, secondary school, university. I'm a graduate of accounting.
Thank you for putting that.
But it was obvious before I finished. Even, I'm sure my parents knew that, okay, yeah, we've paid the school fees, let's just go and finish. But they knew that this was what was going to happen with this guy. So I'd always been that kind of guy. I picked up on instruments myself. I didn't go to music school. I wanted to, but there was no music school around back in the day. So I literally just, okay, nobody will teach me, fine, I'll start myself. So most of what I do, the drums, keys, literally sitting with a laptop, you know, learning one or two things and all that, I literally had to, you know, dig in by myself. So yeah, music is one large part of my life.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's all coming together for me now. It seems like when you hear the name Akifewa, it's synonymous with beautiful melodies. You are brother to Benga Kifewa, right?
Yes, I am.
So it's a music family. You know, you talk about the role that your dad played as well. Talk to us about growing up. Yeah, you've said a lot about that, but did you have any resistance from your parents, you know, because your older brother is also into music and you are into music?
Okay, so I got into music first. So at some point when I started with the drums, and then I moved to the keyboards. As at age 11, I had already started playing the drums, the keys, the guitars. I wanted to start playing the trumpet, but then my cheeks were too soft for it. So my brother came in because he came from school at some point, and then I taught him to play the bass guitar. So that was how he started and then got into it. My parents did not exactly, my father is not a musician. Is not. My mom spent some time in the choir when we were growing up, but I mean, that was it. And when we started, it was just what's this boy latching onto? You know, they got musical instruments in church. Once we were done with school and went home, from there we're going to church to just go and, you know, make noise and all that. So it was a joyous thing for them to see their children growing up in church and all that. But then it started getting serious. And, you know, it started affecting my education. I mean, I wouldn't advise anybody to do that, but it happened to me, you know. So that was the only time that they really raised their concerns, like, you're in school, try and at least not let this affect that. But they never stopped me. I didn't have to creep out of the house. I didn't have to. The only time I can say that they really sat me down to talk to me was when my grades, I went from first and then second, and then I was doing 12th in class, that I was doing first before and second, you know. So basically, they didn't stop me. You know, they just allowed me to do what I wanted to do.
And so there are very little distinctions between your sound and your brother's sound. It's a lot of happy melodies, a lot of worship, you know, that you find in your sound and his sound as well. So are we going to be seeing you and your brother doing things together in the future?
Well, there was a single I dropped in December called Oreo Fesha. He actually sang on that with me, you know. So that in itself is another song that sort of gathered his own
crowd
and crowd by itself, you know. So this year I've had to push, as a musician, you'll probably be pushing a song at a time. I've had to push two at the same time. So because both of them sort of had their own crowd gathering by themselves. Some people it was that Oreo Fesha that had my brother on it, and then for some other people it was this year. So that was what I had to do, you know. Till now I'm pushing two songs at the same time.
So let's talk about, I remember Mali music, and I'm sure you know Mali music at some point. If I may be correct or wrong, but I know you had mentioned the fact that faith-based sounds can be quite limiting, and we've seen alternate sounds coming forth. So my question is, why did you choose faith-based route to express yourself, given what you can do if we stand by what Mali music is saying?
Okay, well, what a lot of people don't know about me is, apart from the fact that I am a Christian musician, I also do a lot in the background in the music space. I produce for a lot of other people. A lot of the sounds you hear for brands that I use to sell products and all that, a lot of them come from me. I mean, if you remember Project Fame, I wrote the music, produced it. If you remember Gould Ultimate Search back then in the day, some of those things, those are things that I do even till now. You know, so apart from doing faith-based music, I also work in the marketplace of music. So I've seen both sides of the divide, in quote, and I've realized that, yes, to some extent, because we have given that definition to it, once you say gospel, you lock it in a box and you put it there. But some of us have realized that what we carry is sort of bigger than that box. So whether we like it or not, the faith that we practice is our lifestyle. It's not just music. It's the lifestyle we live. So that is bound to come out in your music. But at the same time, there are other parts of your life that will also be expressed that will probably not be termed gospel, that will not be put in that box. So that's what a lot of us are doing. So a lot of people know me more as a musician. A lot of people know me more as a producer. A lot of people know me more in the advertising space. A lot of people know me more in the touring space, because I also, you know, direct tours, you know, music tours and all that. So it's putting all that together. It will take someone who has probably followed me for a while to realize that, okay, this guy is not just restricted to this one box.
So you're making a lot of money, apparently.
Wow, Jeffrey, that's all you heard.
That's all you heard.
You see, he positioned himself everywhere. You can see. But let's take a listen to one of your sound, and then we'll come back to some of the conversations we'll have. Let's take a listen to this one. It's difficult to say whether you should explain what was happening there, but I would ask anyway.
Well, this is the song that I said had my brother on it. This is Oreo Official. So this one came out in December last year. So yeah, that already started, getting into, places of worship, into people's playlists and all that before this year came out. So this is the first one I started pushing in December before this year. So this was recorded live in my studio, so my brother came around, some of my team members, and then we had a small crowd, so it was just a time of, worship and all that, and then we recorded some of the songs.
No, for those who don't know what you're saying, what were you saying?
Ore Official means grace in Yoruba. Grace, abundant grace. So I'm saying, God, if it had not been for your grace that I have received, if it had not been for your mercy, Anusha, that's abundant mercy that I have received. So it's a song of, adoration to God, acknowledging that you are not here by yourself, if not for his grace, if not for his mercy that has brought you this far.
And, it's not just grace and mercy that you have received. You've also found a beautiful wife, 12 years in marriage now.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yeah, we clocked 12 years of marriage a few days ago, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So talk to us, because music, you've said a lot of things. You're a multi-potentialite. You do music, you do performance, you do production, you do tours, you do a lot of things. You're literally the plenty roots market. How do you then manage relationships? Because some say you have to choose one. If you will be successful in this, then you probably have to drop the ball in some way when it comes to all those personal relationships. But you seem to be managing it well. How have you been doing that?
Well, I can't give you a particular formula for that, but I know this. If you marry your best friend, things sort of have a way of coming together based on that. So you won't have to prove yourself. You won't have to choose. You can carry all together. Of course, it takes a bit of dedication. There are times where I have to sort of push the music thing a bit behind and attend to my, family. And then there are times when they will realize that this man is going to be out of town for the next 3 months. He's on tour. We are going to have to...
Do you go with your wife on tour sometimes?
No. Because
that was a sharp no.
Well, she's a big woman herself, so she's a big woman herself.
So you can't take her away from her.
Exactly. So I can't take her from. I mean, she also leads a team of many people. So it's difficult to put. I would love to, but so our time of vacation is very sacred to us, if we put it that way, because those are some of the times where there's nobody disturbing, there's no no phone ringing. As much as possible, we try to do that.
Interesting. So, I mean, you have to tell us, is it all bed of roses? Because they say there are thorns naturally in it. How do you handle attention, for example? Because you're Rotimikeys. No, don't let me go there this morning. I think it's too early.
That sounds like a Bukola question.
Well, I'm learning from Bukola. So what is your mantra? How do you stay focused and say, no, I will not fall, whether you want me to or not?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, this me is still, I mean, yes, I have grown, but still the same me. As I make jest with my wife, I said, now maybe this, I know remain for house, that kind of thing. This is all of me. I mean, there's nothing that I do that is not by grace. It's not, everything I have received. So that keeps me grounded as much as possible. And as I said, it's easier to do these things when you're married to your best friend. You can talk about anything, you can share anything, and all that. When you're going through stuff, we're real with each other. That's the truth. but very real with each other.
There you go.
And you know, that's very inspiring that you're big on family, and you know, it's you see it as, you know, your mainstay, your anchor. You know, such inspiration is very scarce resource these days, particularly in the entertainment space. But besides that struggle, yeah, that's your beautiful wife, by the way.
That's your best friend.
That's my girlfriend.
Yeah. I'm sure she's watching, and
yes,
you know,
she is. Yes,
she'll be glowing too as she sees this. Hello.
Hey, baby.
So you were talking about how you're active in all other music spaces besides your song, and I heard you in another interview where you talked about how you had actually written one song, I think it's Oreo Fail, this year, 5 years prior to the time that it was released, but you didn't have enough confidence, you know, about your own voice. That's very revealing, because what we see actually is, you know, a call to celebration or a call to another realm. Very beautiful sound. How did you overcome, you know, that personal struggle, and coupled with how do you deal with the pressure, you know, to produce beautiful sounds while you're also active in all those other spaces?
Wow, that's a very deep question, actually, because I think that every creative gets to that space. You get to that place where you struggle with, you know, imposter syndrome. Is this really me and all that, you know? So I've had quite a bit of that. I was telling people, I said, I have never been a fan of my own voice. You know, people come and say, oh, you sing beautiful. I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. But in my own head, I know that I have other people that I have produced or worked with and all that. I know the kind of standards I have in my head. And in my own head, I don't meet up to it myself. But I guess it was just time. One thing I've come to realize is once it's time for something to happen, everything comes together to make it happen, right? Yeah, the song you were talking about was Life is Beautiful. I released that in 2020, and it was a sort of testing the waters kind of song for me. I'd written it in like 2015, you know, and I'd produced it. I hadn't really put my voice on it, but I'd done some of the recording, you know, in Nigeria and then out of the country and all that. But it was just sitting on my hard drive because I didn't know what to do with it. I just thought, maybe I should sell this to someone else. But then in the midst of the pandemic, I realized, no, this is the time for this to go out. So rather than try to shop it to someone, I just say, you know what, fine, let's face it. So that, when it came out, the acceptance from that, and every time I listen to it, you know, I've had people call me on the phone and weep, saying that song helped them through the pandemic. And I was like, oh, wow. I didn't realize what I would have sat on could have been such a blessing. So I'm glad that this happened, you know. So that sort of started building a bit my confidence. So rather than just push it aside, I said, you know what, it's time to face this. So I started getting my vocal lessons, you know, I started doing all that a bit, and yeah, that's the journey till now.
Amazing.
All right, we have a lot more questions, right? But we don't have so much time. But we'll take just this quick break, and when we come back, we'll take more questions from you. So, Rotimi, let's get to the last part of the conversation, which is, if you can answer it in 1 minute, what can be done so that gospel musician, I know a lot of people don't want to put in that box, can have a proper label structure? Because I'm saying that when you have the YBNLs, the Chocolate Cities, when it was there, the Maven and all of that, we don't seem to, it's like every individual is a record label when it comes to this, the gospel space.
Well, for me, what I think is, from my analysis so far, or my interpretation of what has been going on so far, is the fact that generally by default, we are not necessarily a people who by default have a process mindset. Right? Okay, if I want to do this, let me go from 1 to 2 to 3. We have a lot of people who happened on this. You know, they released one song and then it suddenly blew. So, I mean, this just kept going on that path. And really, that is what has been big. You see that most people who are big in that space now are not signed.
Rotimi, we have to dance to your song, really. We want to talk. I was going to ask, are you going to feature Burna Boy, Whiskey? Is that something you probably do?
If he comes up down the line, probably, yeah.
Okay, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Rotimikeys, it's been an honor having you on the show. Rotimi Akife, music producer, singer, songwriter, creative director, musician, lover boy. I've run out of breath.
Making money from all sides.
Thank you so much for being a part.
Thank you so much.
We're going to dance to this here. Let's just close on this side. So that's been the show, guys. Thank you for being a part of it. Sunrise Daily is up next. I'm Kayode Okikele.
Yeah, well, for me, regardless of the challenges, remember Rotimi saying, now you get this year. I'm Bukola Koka.
Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma.
Let's do that dance, Rotimi.
Oh, yeah, no.
Hey, go.
Lift your hands and say,